Good morning, Belle. The U.S. Vice President, has called Iraq's Prime Minister to mend relations after the Defense Secretary Ash Carter's comment that the Iraqi forces showed no will to fight ISIS in the wake of the fall of Ramadi. How are the international press reacting to this?
Well, it's been discussed endlessly in editorials for the last week or so, this US strategy against the Islamic State. And it's sort of a bit like a kind of latest episode in a long-running saga now. But The Guardian leads with a headline saying, well, it gives the impression that Iraq has been pacified by Joe Biden's efforts. So Iraq says that Carter had been given incorrect information, according to The Guardian, before making that controversial statement, and that we shouldn't judge the whole army based on one incident. That is apparently, according to the Iraqi government, how they see things. Now, the Washington Post takes a look at this through the career of General Martin Dempsey. That is Obama's chief or top military advisor, and he's preparing to step down. So the Washington Post says the Obama administration's response against IS has been informed by Dempsey's experience in the previous US intervention in Iraq back in 2003. Then Dempsey was the head of the US effort to rebuild Iraqi security forces in 2005. Now, the article quotes various colleagues of Dempsey who, unlike other aides, made a case for restraint, and his motto was, "Be quick, but don't hurry." So Dempsey learned apparently that the US was unprepared for the effects of the invasion, which unleashed local grievances that quickly spun out of control. But the Washington Post says that this left a power vacuum that's now been filled by IS and by Iran.
Now, the Kurds have been crucial in the battle against IS, and you found an article that shows it's not just the men who are going to battle.
Absolutely, it is not just the men. And before we go just to the women who are being fantastic in this war, we've also got a quick article from the Globalist, which is a Washington-based online daily. It says that the US has got the strategy against IS completely the wrong way round. It's trying to eradicate IS in Iraq whilst trying to essentially contain it in Syria with these pinprick bombings from the air. The Globalist says that's the wrong way around. It's a calamitous choice, they say. It should, you can see it there, it should in fact be doing the opposite, containing it in Iraq and eradicating it in Syria. But to do that, the Globalist says you'd need to sacrifice two sacred cows of US politics in the region. The first of these sacred cows is the integrity of Iraq, and the second is the US reluctance to recruit mercenaries. Now, the Globalist says, actually, splitting up Iraq would be a very good idea. And that's something that the Kurdish publication Rudaw also agrees with. It says the whole idea of a unified Iraq has been established on a shaky and failed premise, reducing Iran's influence in the region. But a fake united Iraq, it says, has opened up more space for Tehran to consolidate its power. And now I'll get to those Kurdish women that you were talking about. So in fact, we've got a special interview in The Independent, they've got a journalist who's gone to the region, has spoken to some women fighters, Kurdish women fighters, who are leading a pincer movement against IS on the road to Damascus. Some of these girls are as young as 22, and they say it's really important for them to fight because IS targets women, it uses them and it rapes them, and they're part of its campaign. So it's really important for them to be in that fight against IS.
Meanwhile, the Turkish president is being lampooned by the international press, staying in the region. Tell us more about that. What's going on there?
So we'll begin with a French paper, Libération, that has a headline, Erdogan's Ottoman folly. So it talks about the president's new palace, which it's mocking quite obviously here. This new palace is 200,000 square meters in size. That's 4 times the size of Versailles, the Palace of Versailles. And it's got more than 1,000 rooms. I know. Now, the increasingly authoritarian leader, those are Libération's words, not mine, says that Erdogan is trying to make Turkey the leader of the old Ottoman Empire, the old Ottoman territories. So those are the Balkans, the Middle East and Central Asia. And to try and do this, he's also potentially going to reimpose Ottoman lessons in schools. They might now become compulsory. But the criticism doesn't end there. The New York Times last week, in an opinion piece, in an editorial, condemned Erdogan's censorship of the Turkish press. Now, that was because we've got parliamentary elections coming up in Turkey next week. Hurriyet today has an article from Erdogan responding to that editorial, saying, how dare you, and telling the paper, the New York Times that is, that it ought to know its place and to stop meddling in Turkish affairs.
Now, to finish, you found a couple of cartoons on British Prime Minister David Cameron's meeting with the President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker.
Yes, now it's being described in the UK press as a charm offensive from Cameron, and obviously we've been seeing this in the news. Cameron's trying to redefine the UK's position within the EU, but as you can see in this Daily Telegraph cartoon, relations at the moment are rather frosty. They're on either side of the table there at Chequers, which is the Prime Minister's country home. The Guardian has a cartoon. This is the left-leaning paper as opposed to the Telegraph, which is right-leaning. The two are sitting closer together, but they can't hear each other talk over the banging on the door from the Eurosceptics in David Cameron's Conservative Party.
Thank you so much, Belle Lipton there with the international press.